And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome in to RBLR Bandits here at RBLR Sports. My name is Yurika Wheeler, but I did not come alone. Of course, with me, I voted for him for all USFL Podcaster of the Year. That, of course, is my co-host, Zach Blaine. What's good, my guy?
I guess it evened out then because I voted for you as all USFL podcast host. So
What a gentleman.
No, man, everything is really good. We get to have a little fun today. I know the Bandits are out of the playoff race, but that almost makes it more fun to talk about exciting football now.
Well, grab a cold one, whatever you got. Cheers to our Bandits. Unfortunately, the season is over. A 21-18 loss to the Birmingham Stallions. And, of course, last week, I think we went right through it. This was, unfortunately, a meaningless game for the Bandits. Maybe it was other than maybe putting some game film together. We'll talk about it in a second. But for Birmingham, they had already locked up their seeding and their status in the playoffs. So for them, it was really just don't get hurt. Or maybe if there's one or two things they need to iron out as a team. But all in all, this was not going to be the best game of the year.
Exactly.
And Zach, I'll ask you your overall thoughts on this in a second. Of course, for all you listening right up front, we will have an all-inclusive Bandits wrap-up show later on in the year. But Zach alluded to it. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk the playoffs the rest of the way here. But before we get to that, what did you want to talk about with the Birmingham Stallions and the Tampa Bay Bandits?
Yeah, I mean, the game was a lot closer than expected, in all honesty. Watching the game, I almost got excited at the end, and then I told myself not to trust Teamu at the end of the game. And, I think he proved to us again that he can't finish in the fourth quarter. And, yeah, just another kind of disappointing loss. Like, highs and lows in the game were ridiculous. It was another one of those roller coaster rides that we've been talking about what seems like all season.
Yeah, I thought it was a fitting finale. It was a fitting finale for this year. It's basically what we've seen. The defense was okay, and the offense was rocky, and then had a very late surge. And we could literally just copy and paste what we've said about half of the games this year. But my question is, Zach, did we learn anything? We were saying last week that this could have been some guy's last opportunity to put some game film out there, so that, if there's a second season of the USFL, which we'll talk about that later, I think, maybe not this show, but we would definitely a topic of discussion is kind of what the USFL did right or wrong. So if there's a second season, maybe these guys will be back, but for some of the people that we watched, it will be their last professional football game. So it really was, what did we learn? And I think the first person we want to talk about is someone you did bring up a little bit earlier, and that is Jordan Ta'amu. For me, Jordan Ta'amu was Jordan Ta'amu, whatever he is right now. 17-33, that's 51.5% completion rate, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a back-breaking interception. How did you feel about JC10?
Yeah, that's how I felt about him. It was, nothing terrible, nothing good. It was just middle of the road. I think a word that you'll hear about both quarterbacks that played in this game was just pedestrian. It felt like, and I'm not saying that I was ever a quarterback or could be a quarterback, but it felt legitimately like something that Billy Joe off the couch on a Sunday could do in a game. Like, it just wasn't very impressive to me.
Again, you're looking for that late surge, and like we've even joked about it. I was memeing about it on social media about, like, the first 3 quarters, you don't have to worry about it. But that fourth quarter, Jordan Ta'amu, it's over, buddy. Like,
over for our offense.
It's the tiny little scared dog is the first 3 quarters, and then the big buff dog with muscles, that's the fourth quarter. And it almost happened again, but it didn't. But here's another quarterback that played for you. What did you learn about Brady White? How about that?
Yeah, we saw him throw the ball 7 times. Again, his average yards per completion was 3.6. So
Yeah, boy.
maybe he can't throw the ball, and that's why he wasn't ever put into the game for us. But he didn't turn the ball over. That's a plus, especially what we've been dealing with lately. That's kind of a plus. He didn't do anything spectacular either. It was nothing that I was too excited about, aside from his 2 rushes for -4 yards. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say on him, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, hey, he got to play. He got to throw 7 balls, 25 yards total, and some, of course, negative running yards. But speaking of running, the running game went nowhere in this game either. Everyone got a shot. Everyone got a couple carries, including Trey Mentner, right? It was good to see him.
Yeah.
So everyone got 3 or 4 carries or something like that, none of which went over 40 yards, I think, combined. I mean, so it was okay, but it wasn't the reason they were close in the game. So anything about the running game before we move on?
Yeah, so, I mean, you brought up Minter. That was something that I was excited to see. And his first, if I'm not mistaken, his very first run was a 15-yard run. And I was like, oh, where has he been all season? And then he follows it up with one more rush the entire game for 2 yards.
Yeah.
Emmons had actually a decent game for how little he touched the ball. 3 rushes, 21 yards, with the longest of 11. So even the other 2 rushes were at least 5 yards, which if you're playing in this league, that's where I want you to be at for a good running back, like anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 yards a carry, and I'll be happy with it. I know it's a lot in the NFL, but I feel like in this league it shouldn't be very hard to average that. And, I mean, again, Te'amu didn't do bad rushing the ball. 22 yards on 4 carries. Again, one of them was 19 yards, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, if he was more of a I don't want to keep banging, and we'll talk way more about Jordan Ta'amu later on, but yeah, if he was the only real skill that I see is his ability as a dual threat, which you can't really do that as a full-time quarterback in the National Football League.
Exactly.
You're going to get blown up. But, like a Taysom Hill kind of guy for the New Orleans Saints was a guy that you knew was going to run first, but could theoretically pull the ball up and throw it. Maybe there's a package somewhere out there. Maybe. We'll see. I think he would definitely benefit from one more year if he wanted to be in a spring league. They sign these contracts, so we'll see. But he did have a one target that he really, really liked to go to, and that is Derek Dillon.
Oh.
And that's where I want to turn it to. Derek Dillon had a really good day statistically. He had one 75-yard long bomb, and he had another 19 yards around the day. But, 4 receptions on 7 targets. That goes more to the ability of the quarterbacks, though. And 94 yards, but 75 of them on one play.
Yeah, but even that, 19 yards on 3 other catches, like that's not – when you have the quarterbacks that we have who are averaging, I think Te'amu this game had 6.8 yards per throw. Yeah. You have to do what you can do. Like you can't – as a wide receiver, it's not always possible for you to have 20 yards per catch if you have a quarterback that's throwing 6 yards per throw. So I don't put all that on him. I think he had a phenomenal game. He was one of my offensive stars in this game, and I would stand behind him getting a shot at the next level for sure.
Awesome, man. Flipping the script as we finish up the recap here. Birmingham did most of their scoring in the second quarter, and they only got 21 the entire game. Yeah. So I think they only scored 7 in the fourth quarter was their only second half output. But
yeah.
You said Ta'amu was pedestrian. That's exactly the note that I have on Magoo. 14 of 25, 183 yards, touchdown, interception. But the run defense also, the passing defense was fine. Magoo probably wasn't the best quarterback in the world. But the run defense gave up less than 100 yards to Marable and Scarborough. They were trying to run the ball and they couldn't do it. And a lot of that is because of Mr. Butler had himself another great day at the office. 15 tackles, a tackle for loss, a pass deflection, and an interception. That is like cherry on the top, man. He's done a phenomenal job in these last few weeks.
Yeah, I think that, again, we were very, very high on Christian Sam on this podcast. I think at one point we basically deemed ourselves the Christian Sam fan club, and I'm not upset about that. I still love Christian Sam, but Butler is doing a phenomenal job taking that spot. The closest guy on defense had 4 tackles. I mean, there was a few of them. I think we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other players that had 4 tackles. That was the next highest total tackles. And Butler had 15, with 11 of those being solo.
He's been amazing.
Yeah, phenomenal. Like, that was, if he doesn't get a shot, I don't know what this league is about.
Yeah, he's definitely been well, and we've seen this defense really just churning out. Again, we will recap the entire season later on, but the Bandits defense has been the bright spot of the entire season. We've been it's been a revelation for some of these guys that have come from, maybe you kind of knew who they were, or they were a name that, I guess that we know that guy from camp one time.
Yeah.
Now you have real game film, real statistics, real experience with these guys. So definitely Butler's a guy that literally just came out of nowhere for us. He's the one, I think he's a smaller school guy too, and he just kind of was able to put it together, and hopefully that's a call up to the big show. So, man, the one thing we didn't do, I wish we would have made like a Christian Sam T-shirt. It would have only been good for
for the first half of the season,
for the 3 quarters of the year. But one of those shirts would have been really cool. It would have gone really well with some of the new shirts we have at shop.rblrsports.com. We have shirts celebrating all of the Tampa Bay teams. Here at RBLR, we talk about our Stanley Cup winning Lightning. We talk about our Super Bowl winning Buccaneers. We talk about our two back-to-back Eastern Conference champion Rowdies. We talk about the Tampa Bay Rays who went to the World Series not too long ago. So it's a good time to be a sports fan, and we have T-shirts that celebrate the fandom and the experience and all of the awesomeness that is here in Tampa Bay. So if you listening to this right now, if you hop into the link that's in the description, use the promo code BANDITBALL, you're going to get 10% off your order. We've got T-shirts and stickers and you name it. We've got a lot of cool stuff there. So it'd be really, really nice. It helps us, puts a couple dollars in our pocket, and you definitely get to walk around town with the coolest T-shirts in the planet. It's just how it is.
By far the coolest T-shirts around.
Yeah. I mean, there's the one that we just got in the mail. It's a Tampa Bay with 3 trophies on it that are similar to a prestigious cup that hockey players would like to have.
Inspired by that cup.
It's inspired by. It's very similar to, but not exactly. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's in like an 8-bit and a retro game style pixelated art. It looks so good.
It's sick. I've seen you wear it. It's the blue one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And in black, you could choose whatever. A lot of these T-shirts come in multiple color. You can do a lot of times it's like black and gray and whatever the team colors are. So they're pretty cool, man, and they look cool. But when I got that thing, I opened that bad boy up. I was like, "Let's go!" I was very, very excited. So, what also gets me excited, man, is we could finally turn the page on the Bandit season, and we could talk about just playoff football. Boy,
we can do that.
Yes, Zach. What game would you like to talk about first, my friend?
I mean, I feel like we almost have to just go right into the to our foes, the New Orleans Breakers, Birmingham Stallions game.
Okay. Yeah. The South is going to be really contested. This is going to be it's the Sunday game at 8:00 on Sunday on NBC.
Yeah.
The Stallions are a 5-point favorite. Overall thoughts. I mean, do you want to talk about New Orleans offense or Birmingham's offense first?
Yeah, so I was going to go through and kind of I was going to go at Birmingham first because they are, in my opinion, the better offense. They're putting out 23.4 points a game, which was the second highest third highest.
I think they're number one. Well, they're the number one in the South.
Number one in the South for sure. Yes.
For sure.
Philadelphia is number one in the league,
Yeah.
offense-wise, which we'll talk about them the next matchup. But yeah, so they are definitely first in the South, and I believe second or third in the whole league. So they're doing that with 187.8 passing yards a game and 135.7 rushing yards per game, which is, again, one of the higher rushing yards per game in the league. So I think that just off of their offense, they have the upper hand in this matchup.
100%. They're quarterbacked by Jamar Smith with over 1,500 yards, 1,573 to be exact, 10 touchdowns on the season. Couple really good wide receiver threats. You've got Marlon Williams, who was Marlon Williams and Victor Bolden Jr. were third and fourth in the entire league in rushing yards or receiving yards.
Oregon State alum.
Yeah, okay, you're excited, buddy. Well, and very close to Marlon Williams, 474 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Victor Bolden right behind him at 415. Victor Bolden Jr., a little bit of an X factor. He's a 2-time All-USFL player because not only is he an All-USFL wide receiver, he was also an all-purpose yard leader in special teams. So it's just, you got to watch where Victor Bolden Jr. is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He can hurt you anywhere. That's the key. That's the wild part with him is he can run the ball. He can return the ball. He can catch the ball. He is going to be an X factor in this game. Mark my word.
And two, it's just like they're held together with a really good offensive line. The leader of that is guard Cameron Hunt, who was an all USFL guard for the league on the team. So Birmingham, they've done a pretty good job. They beat New Orleans twice this year. They beat them in week 3, and they beat them in week 8. But week 8 was even when we were looking at this matchup in week 8, we thought it was going to be a lot. Well, it was 10-9 was the final score, and I think that's definitely not what anyone expected when you have this matchup of these, like, well, and at the time, New Orleans had a couple less losses, and it was just kind of like, whoa, New Orleans is climbing up the power rankings, and, and it was like right at the same time that the Bandits were losing, so we were just like, geez, New Orleans is great, and then it was 10-9, and we're just like, wow, these offenses are not amazing. However, a lot of that is because Birmingham's offense is going to have to go against the best defense, in my opinion, in the USFL, and that is the New Orleans Breakers. We saw them twice this year. We've just been fawning over the amazing production they have. What are your thoughts on the Breakers' defense?
Yeah, so we were amazed by their defense before they picked up, in my opinion, the best linebacker in the USFL in Christian Sam.
Yeah.
So their defense is giving up 16.4 points per game, 163.6 passing yards per game, and only 112.9 rushing yards a game. The only defensive stat that Birmingham has better than them is that Birmingham allows less rushing attempts or less rushing yards at 95.5. So to me, New Orleans doesn't rush the ball as much as they do passing the ball. So I think that this kind of levels out what New Orleans is going to do. Yeah. And I think that New Orleans, their strength is kind of in what Birmingham does as far as on offense.
Yeah, what are you looking forward to? What do you think Birmingham's going to try to do against that defense?
So I feel like Birmingham is going to have to come out and throw the ball. I think that they're going to have to put up points in the air. I don't think that they're going to be able to rush the ball 135 yards this game. I just don't see it happening. This is going to probably be the first game that Christian Sam plays in, and I promise you that you will not be able to do that against Christian Sam.
I think he had 3 tackles last week.
Oh, did he? Okay, I didn't.
Yeah.
I watched the game. I didn't see him very much.
So what was crazy is they actually just played each other.
Yeah, exactly.
or sorry, not too long ago, but like, Christian Sam did play. I believe he had 3 tackles, but he wasn't in a lot. But he's there.
Yeah.
But what they do have, I mean, the Breakers kind of rested a lot of their starters. To be honest with you, last week, I think they lost to Houston last week.
Yeah, I believe so.
But which it was like, cool. But I mean, it's good to see Houston finally get a win. But.
They did what Birmingham should have done. They did it like a real playoff game was coming up and rested most of their starters.
Yeah. Yeah, if you got it. I mean, that's why they go out and get a Christian Sam. It's like, hey, you know what we can do? We can rest like Jared Fernandez, which I believe he was inactive last week. But they can rest Jared Fernandez, who is the 3rd most tackler in the USFL, and just add a dude was in the top 10 of the USFL tackling, and he's the backup, quote unquote, air quotes here. But you look around, you've got Bellamy at the end, you've got Reggie Howard Jr. as a D tackle, you've got Jared Fernandez, but also Vontae Diggs. Those are all all USFL guys. They're four all USFL dudes on their defense, and that is just their front. It's 4 out of their front 7. It's ridiculous. It's like
it's insane.
I love it. They're so damn good, guys.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of. We slept on Birmingham a little bit as a show, totally.
I think so.
In the beginning of the year, we're like, it's going to be New Orleans and Tampa. It's going to be New Orleans and Tampa. And I think that Birmingham surprised us and New Orleans proved us right. So it's kind of a weird, like, we were so right and also so wrong. But I think that we expected New Orleans defense to be one of the top in the league, and they came out and just showed us that they were for real.
Well, it won't matter how good their defense is if their offense can't score.
Yeah.
Let's talk about New Orleans' offense. What do you got for me on stats-wise over there?
Yeah, so as far as the stats go, they are not far off from Birmingham. Passing yards-wise, they are a little over 0.3 yards better. They average out 188.1 passing yards. Their rushing attack, like I said, they're not as good as Birmingham. They're at a 115.2. And points per game, this is where the differential is going to come in, I believe, because they're at 19.6 points per game, which is almost a full 4 points less than Birmingham. And, I mean, they've played Birmingham twice, but they also played some worse teams than Birmingham. So I think that's going to be what gets them in this game is they have to be able to put points on the board.
They're not very dynamic. I believe that they're the lowest scoring offense that are in these playoffs.
Yes.
They're led by, and I can't say this with a straight face, all USFL quarterback Kyle Sloter. It's pretty indicative of the quarterback play in this league when the best quarterback voted on. Now this wasn't voted on by like you or I or whatever, and it wasn't like fans got to like meme this guy into being there. It's not like we got to vote or whatever. The players and coaches voted that Kyle Sloter, he has 17 almost 1,800 yards throwing. He's second in the USFL. But Jordan Tamu was number 1 in throwing yards.
Yeah, that shouldn't mean anything.
Cool. That's great. But here's why I laugh. Kyle Sloter has 9 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. You have a vastly negative touchdown to interception ratio. And you've been benched in 2 weeks for Zach Smith, who was called in twice to come in because of poor play by Kyle Sloter, including the game against us that meant so much, the last game that actually meant something for the Bandits, that it was basically a playoff game, and Kyle Sloter came out horrible. I mean, our defense is great. We gushed about it in the beginning of the show, but Kyle Sloter is going to have to figure it out because the problem, they say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any because you're in a bad position.
Yeah.
Well, New Orleans doesn't have one good quarterback that they can really rely on because Zach Smith, even if he's good, he's hurt, and Kyle Sloter is like 50-50. What are you going to do?
Yeah, one game you'll get a really good game, the next game you'll get the complete opposite of that, and it's. I agree with you. I don't understand how in the hell he won or he was all USFL, I think there could have been probably 3 or 4 quarterbacks voted above him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But who am I? Like you said, we didn't get to vote on it, so
They didn't send me a
maybe
letter. Yeah.
maybe he's just bribing all the other players. Hey, I'll give you $20. You write me down for all USFL.
Yeah, he's going. It's like we'll say they're all in the same hotel rooms, right? So he's like class president, like hanging up like posters, vote for Kyle. Um,
Not Kyle, do vote me in.
I'm trying to, but he's got some weapons, some weapons. I mean, so look, Kyle Sloter has the second most passing yards in the USFL. So he's number one in the playoffs anyway. Right? For all these quarterbacks, he's got the most statistics. And part of that is Sal Cannella at tight end. He leads the league in terms of tight end receiving yards. He's also named to the All USFL team. But then they also have Jonathan Adams, which was fifth, just right behind Williams and Bolden is Jonathan Adams, who has 406 receiving yards. And they also have Johnny Dixon, who had 4 touchdowns in the season, which is doesn't sound like a lot, but in 10 games, four touchdowns. That's good enough to be in the top 10 in the USFL. So Kyle Sloter just has to maybe get the ball to these people, but they've got some weapons.
Yeah, I mean, their tight end, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so it's going to sound, but Canelo, right?
Sal Cannella, yeah.
Canelo, yeah. So he reminds me of, and not skill level, so don't twist my words here, guys. But like Julio Jones.
Okay.
He'll get all these yards. Like, you would see Julio Jones leading the league in yards per catch or yards in total, and he'll have like 3 touchdowns all season. So it's like he was one of those guys. I think he finished the season with 2 or 3 touchdowns, like not very many touchdowns, but he was one of the best tight ends in the league, probably the best tight end in the league, even better than our very own Cheyenne O'Grady, who I still is one of my favorite players.
Pretty high on him too, yeah.
Yeah, but he was one of those guys where it's like I felt like there was nothing he could do to get a damn touchdown.
Well, and again, I think that you're right. Birmingham is going to be passing the ball first. They may try to get the running game going if they're able to convert some early drives into touchdowns, somehow piercing that defense. But I think this is going to be 2 teams trying to throw the ball a lot. But that kind of goes away from one of the best things that New Orleans has. And of course, granted, some of these statistics might have come against some teams that weren't really good at stopping the run. But Jordan Ellis is the number 1 rusher in the USFL with 596 yards. So in New Orleans, whether they've been forced to give Ellis the ball or it's just been working out in the game plan, he's racked up almost 600 yards in 10 games. So that's a pretty good pace. So I don't think that's where New Orleans is going to go with their offense, but it's kind of there if they need it, and if they can make a couple plays in the passing game and then try to bleed out the clock. They've got a pretty good running back, as well as a pretty decent offensive line. Their center Jared Thomas was also named to the All USFL team.
Yeah, I mean, so who? Obviously, we'll get into like a score prediction, but who do you have if you had to pick a running back? Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, is CJ Marable, right? Or Marable?
Yeah.
So
Marable,
if you had to pick a running back out of Marable or Ellis, who do you think's going to have the better game?
I mean, I think Birmingham is going to be able to. Birmingham's going to have to throw the ball, but maybe Maribel breaks off a couple pretty good runs. I mean, he's a guy who, he averages, it gets about, like 12. They do run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
They give him 12 a game, but, I think if you're getting more than 50 yards rushing, that's a win.
Yeah.
For Birmingham, I think that Jordan Ellis is going to get the rock a lot, only because they don't want to put it in the hands of Sloter like all the time. You cannot if they're trying to trust Sloter to drop back 50 times and throw the rock.
They're going to lose this game.
They're going to lose this game,
yeah.
Man. It's really because it's just. Birmingham's defense, and we haven't even gotten to it yet, but Birmingham's defense We talk about bend but don't break. That's what a lot of this is. Like they don't have the murderer's row of the New Orleans, but they do have the second best scoring allowed defense in the league. So they don't give up a lot of points, man. The two guys I think I can talk the most about are DeMarcus Gates, who has 62 tackles, best on their team, 11 tackles for loss, and 6.5 sacks. That's a pretty damn good resume for a
10-game season.
Dude, that's really good, guys. He was named All USFL for the linebacking core, but also right next to him is Scooby Wright. That is a hell of a dynamic duo
Scooby
for
Wright's
the Stallions.
a beast.
So to wrap it around, like Jordan Ellis. Jordan Ellis is going to have a way tougher time, I think, going through that because Birmingham's not going to run the ball. Like I don't think
exactly.
I don't think they're going to give it to Maribel. They're not going to put it in his hands because they wouldn't go anywhere. Do you want 0 yards on this play, or maybe you get 6 out of a pass?
So just to back up kind of what you said on their numbers, Birmingham is only allowing 16.9 points per game, which is only 0.5 more than New Orleans. They're only allowing 173.3 passing yards, which I don't think that Slaughter has the ability to even to hit that mark, in all honesty. And then it comes down to their rush yards, like you said, probably the second best rushing defense in the league with 95.5 yards per game to the opponents. So it's just kind of like where, pick your poison.
Yeah. Well, so let's just bring that together, man. We'll talk about score predictions here. What do you think is going to be the score? Who wins in the Breakers versus the Stallions?
So I'm going with the kind of low score. I think it's going to be 17-10 Birmingham.
17-10 Birmingham. We've kind of put that together, but why? Like, what do you think? What do you think? The defenses are so good, but why do you think that one team is even going to get 17 points against these defenses?
I think that Birmingham is going to come out and they're going to be able to throw the ball a little bit better than what New Orleans is going to be able to do. I don't trust Slaughter in a situation like this. Truthfully, he's had a relatively easy season up until the last 2 games were really the only 2 games that were what's the word I'm looking for? Important, and really it was just the game against Tampa. Yeah. So I don't trust Slaughter to get the passing yards down, and I don't think that they're going to be able to rush the ball like they want to against Birmingham, and I think that that's going to be the end all be all for New Orleans.
Yeah, I have to think Birmingham had it wrapped up early in the season, and they've sort of just wandered around.
Yeah.
They lost to Houston a couple weeks ago. They barely got past the Bandits last week.
Exactly.
And they were playing their players, and it's like, okay. I don't know. When you put the players on the field, they play, and that's why the coaches have to make the decision to we're going to take our starters off the field because if you're going to play, you're not going to run 50%. Like that's how you get hurt.
Exactly.
So to see them have their whole squad and they still barely did anything against the Bandits, that's not very good. New Orleans also I think is tougher than their record shows. Fedora did rest many of the regulars last week, so you really, they lost to Houston, but you draw out of that. I don't draw anything. So Birmingham has a very dynamic offense and a solid defense, but New Orleans has the best defense, and it's going to keep New Orleans in the game till late in the game. But I agree with you. I think the offense is going to let them down. I have the Birmingham Stallions moving on to the championship game 20-17.
Okay. All right, so you think they're both going to score relatively high?
Well, look, we're only talking 2 touchdowns and a field goal, right? And maybe 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals is the difference, right?
Yeah.
So over 4 quarters, you're only putting the ball in the end zone twice in my little stupid prediction. But I think that's about right. I think both these teams, you're not going to keep everybody out of the end zone. Maybe they do. Maybe
it's a 0-3 game.
Maybe New Orleans pitches a shutout. That's what they need.
They
Everything we talked about us.
Yeah, there's no other choice. If they're going to win this game, they have to pitch a shutout.
Exactly. It's what we would have said if we were in this position, right? If we
Mm-hmm.
beat New Orleans and we were in this position, we would have said the same thing. We would have said our amazing defense is going to have to just be the best stellar defense they've ever been, and we hope and pray that the offense can score more than 17 points. And I think that's what's going to get it done. So Birmingham moves on for both of us. The other game that is going on Saturday is the North playoff game between the Philadelphia Stars at 6-4 versus the New Jersey Generals. This will be the 3 p.m. game on Saturday. Oh no, they're both on Saturday. 3
Yeah,
p.m.
I think
is
they're both
this one,
Saturday.
and then nightcap on the same day. So we got a whole day of football, baby. Let's go. New Jersey is a 4.5-point favorite, which. New Jersey last lost in week number 1.
Yeah.
And they've won 9 straight
9
games.
straight.
Philadelphia has already lost twice to New Jersey this year. They lost in week 3, 24-16. And then I kind of have my notes about this game was actually played last week. It was 26-23 last week. Most of the starters played last week, but I don't know what you gain out of this. Like, if you're New Jersey and, like, you lose, big deal. But they won, so.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a game where I think I've told you, we haven't said it on air,
Okay.
but I do think that New Jersey, I'm going to go ahead and say it now. I think New Jersey is going to win the whole thing. I think that they are the hottest team right now.
Okay.
But also say that Philadelphia was on a tear. They were the highest scoring offense in the USFL at 26.2 points per game. And it's so weird. I just don't get necessarily how, honestly.
Well, do you want to talk about New Jersey's defense first, or do you want to what's the matchup you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I mean, we can go right into their. I'll go on their offense first, just to kind of get it out of the way, because I'm more. Weirdly, I'm more impressed with their defense than I am with their offense. I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise to you guys listening. I've been a defensive guy the whole time we've been talking about the Bandits.
For sure.
In this matchup, we've got the Generals' offense is averages 23.2 points per game, so 3 less than the Stars, but they average 188.8 passing yards and 160.6 rushing yards. That is just ridiculous. So they are offensively, everything aside from points per game, more efficient than their opponent this week.
So who's a big standout first that you want to talk about on that defense?
On the defense, see, like I was telling you earlier, I didn't pick out necessarily players, but they're just their defense as a whole. They're only allowing 18.2 points a game and then 73.6 rushing yards. That was the best rushing defense in the league, if I'm not mistaken. And just that whole front seven is ridiculous. Like, I can't even. I'm trying to just think of certain players, but that whole front seven is insane.
Yeah, New Jersey's defense. I mean, you talk about they got Toby Johnson up front in that front seven as a D tackle. He's an all USFL player, along with in the secondary Shalom Luwani. So who has 5 interceptions? That's second most in the entire league. Through 10 games, he's got 1 every other game. So on average. So. Can you run the ball? Maybe. Can you throw the ball? Probably not. Those are 2 dudes that are just clogging up your offensive game plan. Like you said, New Jersey's allowing the fewest points allowed in the North Division, at least at 18.2. Yep. So that's the game plan. Keep them under 20, I guess. That's been working out so far. They've only lost once. Couple close calls, but. Outside of Toby Johnson and Shalom Luwani, you also have to look out for DeJuan Hines. He's another linebacker that just will wreck your shop, and he gets up, racking up a lot of tackles this year. I think that to go against that, though, Philadelphia's offense, look, you're 6-4. they're not the greatest offense, but they're capable of doing damage. They score a boatload of touchdowns.
Yes.
Now, their defense kind of has let them down in some of these games that they've lost, but their offense is they're dynamic. I mean,
100%.
To be honest with you, man, I think that Case Cookus should have been the All USFL quarterback. That would have been my vote if I got one. Dude, Case Cookus comes in after a few games. He just didn't play. He didn't rack up all the statistics. If he would have played, from day one.
Yeah.
But he still had 1,334 yards. He had a 12 touchdown to 5 interception ratio. That's the second most touchdowns in the USFL. And he didn't even play the first few games. So to me, and he's a guy that we were laughing at his name. He's like all name team for sure.
Oh, 100%.
But Case Cookus comes in, and we're like, we've got a funny name. And all he's done is wreck shop and had a really good year, man. Now, of course, they do have tight end Bug Howard, who has 4 of those touchdowns. So, a third of the touchdowns are getting to Bug Howard. But that's a crazy red zone threat that you have to worry about. But Bug's catching stuff all over the field. And they've got a good running game, too. Matt Colburn, who just won a humanitarian award by the USFL. Just as we're recording, they released that in a press release. He won Sportsman of the Year for the USFL. So Matt Colburn the second, 8 touchdowns. That's the second most in the entire league. So they put up statistics. They put up numbers. They 26.2 points per game for this offense. They're the reason they're here in the playoffs, and they're the reason they have a shot. However, New Jersey has a good defense. What did you see out of Case Cookus, Colburn, Howard, all these guys that I've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, this is another team. Like I said, I don't understand necessarily how much as they did, because passing yards, they averaged 184 per game this season, 103.4 rushing yards. So not bad numbers at all, but it just seemed like they must have had really good field position, which kind of leads into where their defense was at. And it's almost like, how do you have all those points with your average yards? Their offense, this is why I was saying I was kind of surprised that their points per game being so high, because they're only averaging 184 passing yards a game and 103.4 rushing yards per game. So their offense is scoring dynamically while not being super highly rated in their passing and rushing game, which leads me to believe that their defense or their special teams is what's kind of keeping them in it. And, truthfully, I don't think it's their, considering they're allowing 24.3 points per game and 194 passing yards. And the worst statistic to me is 151.2 rushing yards they allow, which in my opinion makes Case Cookus even more impressive, that he's able to do what he's doing in the situation that he's in.
Yeah, that brings up a good point talking about Philly's defense. They have 3 guys that I wanted to point out, but really that's it. There's not a lot of superstars or guys. Again, very limited time that we spent over the last couple weeks looking at these guys. I'm not going to tell you I know everything, the ins and outs of the Philadelphia Stars.
You don't?
Well, I know that their mascot is horrible. Horrible.
He's pretty much the Hardy's mascot.
Dude, it's like the Western Kentucky thing, just mixed in with they were going for gritty, but they went with it's Grimace from the McDonald's, but
just
his red cousin. Yeah. Not a Blob fan over here, big guy. Sorry, man. But I am a fan of Channing Stribling. Cornerback leads the league with 7 interceptions in 7 games. So if you thought Shalom Luani was out here taking your lunch, here's Channing Stribling.
Exactly.
So, he also had a sack too. So they blitz him sometimes, and he's the one all USFL guy they had on defense. But defensive end Adam Rodriguez is killing it. 9 sacks over the year, 8 tackles for loss. Definitely a dude that you have to game plan against. And then Jordan Moore, linebacker for them, 60 tackles on the year. He gets involved, man. So all in all, there's a reason they're here. I think their reason is more offensively, but this Philadelphia defense is definitely going to have to play above their average play, because they're going against a New Jersey offense that this offense just scored 26 points on them 7 days ago.
Exactly.
If they want to do better than that, they're going to have to turn it up because. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the New Jersey Generals offense?
Yeah, so I feel like we mentioned Cookus and didn't give Luis Perez, any credit, because he, granted, like, I think one of these two quarterbacks should have won all USFL.
Okay. Yeah.
Luis Perez had 1,200 yards. Another guy who I don't believe played every game, I think he played in 6 games, had 9 touchdowns to just 1 interception.
Yeah.
So
Luis came in because Luis is a XFL name that people love because he played with the Guardians in New York. But then, because you got to remember,
yes, played in 9 games but started 6.
Yeah, because they signed him, but like he didn't really play because they also have DeAndre Johnson. But both of those guys are coming in after. I believe someone they who did they draft? And I can't remember, but
he broke his foot. Ben Holmes. Was it Holmes?
Ben Holmes is New Jersey, actually.
Yeah, that's who we're talking about.
Oh yeah. Sorry, no, sorry.
No, he was Philadelphia, wasn't he?
No, you are correct.
Oh, okay.
No, you're right. It was Ben Holmes because they made a big thing. Oh my God, Ben Holmes. And then but here was the scuttlebutt is that he got injured and then he got released, but it wasn't the some of the unconfirmed reports were that his playing wasn't exactly the best, and so kind of him getting hurt was the cherry on the top. So they were looking to go grab a guy already, and look, they only had like a couple weeks of preseason to put this thing together, so. It doesn't surprise me that not every person was great out of the gate. We saw it took Tamu a whole year to figure it out. So,
figured out.
But not to throw Ben Holmes under the bus, but Luis Perez came in and they didn't put him in the game really for a couple weeks. But once he earned it, it's been his spot ever since. And I think what's the catch with him is like he didn't play college football.
Or he didn't start.
Like
he didn't start playing football until college or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I believe he was a little bit older than like most of the quarterbacks in his draft class.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to be honest with you, man, I don't know if he's ever going to really get a shot in the NFL. So. If they're giving out rings or medallions or bracelets or whatever they're doing, this is his best chance to do it. So I think he's going to come out pretty strong. What else did you like about New Jersey's offense?
I like that their running backs. They have a good dual threat running backs, and they're averaging out 160.6 yards per game, which is the weakness of Philadelphia's defense.
Oof, I love it. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Dude, Trey Williams, 500, and they're like pretty equal too.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
almost identically. Trey Williams is more of their the guy that's gonna. I think they give the ball more to Trey Williams, and then they use Darius Victor as like the blunt object. Darius Victor's not a very tall guy.
Yeah. Very
good low center of gravity. But Trey Williams, 579 rushing yards. Darius Victor, 577. That's 2 yards difference. Why couldn't Trey just hand over 1 yard? Just give him 1 yard,
Just let's tie, bud. Come on.
Let's tie, bud. Come on. Here's a yard. It's in my back pocket. Here you go. Here's a yard. But Darius Victor, 9 touchdowns. He was the named USFL Offensive Player of the Year this year, and he's one of 4 offensive all USFL players on their offense. Darius Victor being the running back, but I want to get your opinion on Kavontae Turpin. My God, the MVP. And then, of course, they do have a couple linemen. Terry Poole, offensive tackle, and guard Garrett McGinn. So they got there's a reason that Darius Victor and Trey Williams are racking up all these yards, and that's because they have two really good linemen. But yeah, Kavontae Turpin, dude, let's talk about the MVP right now.
He is an animal. He is a freak of nature.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get a shot at some kind of camp, I will stop doing this show.
Why is that?
Because he just does everything that you would want a smaller-ish receiver to do, and he does all of it very well.
Yeah, man, 540 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns on the year, but also an absolute assassin in the punt return game. So, man, he's done absolutely bonkers in this league. And not to get too down, I don't want to put a cloud over this, but this is a guy who is benefiting from the USFL even existing, because here's a dude who was undrafted because he had legal troubles, okay? He pled guilty to assault. He had some trouble for sure, but because of that, he didn't get drafted in the NFL. And so hopefully this is one of those guys we talked about in our preview show that some of these guys are going to have to show that they've turned the corner personally and professionally. And so we've seen that in between the hash marks, this dude is ridiculous. He definitely has earned a spot. Now I'm hoping that also there's good stories that are coming about him off the field and doing good things, or just coaches that are raving about work ethic or what character, things like that. I'm hoping that this is definitely one of those things where that he can turn it around, man. He's definitely, he's the MVP of the league, dude.
Yeah, no, he a well-deserved MVP in my opinion. Like I said, we obviously talked about it in the very first episode that we did, where there's some guys in this league and that they need, we know they're good on the field. We need to know what's in between their ears, though. And I think that he is a prime example of that. He proved himself on the field, and if he can do good in interviews and prove that he's matured, then I think that there's no reason for him not to get another shot, especially when there's people in the NFL that have, been accused of much worse.
Well, we have 2 9-1 teams going against 2 6-4 teams that are probably better than their records show. So with this said, we already said that the Birmingham Stallions are going to be moving on. What is your score prediction for New Jersey versus Philadelphia?
I've got New Jersey winning this one. I think we're going to see 2 9-1 teams in the championship game. And I'm going to say that they're going to win 20, let's go 28 this time instead of 26 to 14. I think they're going to correct what they did against Philadelphia last week.
Wow, that's a pretty resounding victory.
Exactly.
If Philadelphia's offense can't get it going, that's the one shot they have. And to be honest, Philadelphia has the better offense, I think, between the two.
Agreed.
But their defense is slightly below average. New Jersey's offense isn't the greatest show on turf, but they're efficient. And basically, it's when they say defense wins championships, this is an excellent defense for New Jersey that is going to be backed up with just a good methodical running game with good passing every once in a while here and there. But I think this is going to be a high scoring game, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be 27-24 New Jersey wins, because I think that Philadelphia's offense is going to get slowed down a little bit, but I also think that the defenses they're gonna have to adjust, because the offenses are gonna come out with pretty good game plans, I think, and we'll see. But I think it's a 3-point spread either way. Very close games. Even I don't know who's setting the lines for Fox Sports, but the Generals are only a 4.5-point favorite, and so I think that they won't cover that spread, but it's gonna be a tough game, and it's gonna be a good night of football. I think that the whole day is just gonna be a phenomenal way to end a good season as we go in, because they're in Canton, Ohio. They're in the home of the Football Hall of Fame. They're playing it at the stadiums. There's a Trace Adkins concert in between the two games. So man, it's a good day all the way around. I think they're still doing the buy one ticket, get to go to all the games. Yeah, what crazy.
It's gonna be fun.
Crazy.
It's gonna be a fun weekend, man. I'm actually excited to watch USFL football this weekend.
Right? And some weeks they haven't been that way. So, well, for all of you listening, you have been with us this entire year. You have been amazing and wonderful. I begged you about T-shirts earlier. I'm going to say one more thing. If you followed us on social media this entire year, we are at RBLR Bandits. We will still be covering, for at least the next couple weeks, we will be covering the USFL Championship game that is next week. We will definitely recap these two games and see how wrong you and I were, Zach. We've been wrong all year, but we'll get to do it one more week. So we'll talk about that, but then we'll also get into our Bandits and some of the highs and the lows and the good and the bad and kind of over the next couple weeks. So I'm very excited to talk playoff football. Happy and excited that you are along with us for the ride. You guys are the real MVP. If you're wherever you're listening to this, if you're on Spotify or Apple Music or Google Play or wherever you're using the platform, there's a like button or a follow button or a subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, all that kind of stuff, go ahead and hit that bad boy and make sure you're getting all of the content for all of the Tampa Bay teams that we cover. My man Zach over here does a phenomenal job covering the Rays. Alongside Ben Whitelaw, who's one of the rising stars in Rays fandom. So it's a really, really good show, but we also talk about the other football team in Tampa Bay. We talk about our hockey team, who hopefully can stave off elimination as
Fingers
we record.
crossed.
And just everybody. And until we have a basketball team, we're crossing our fingers. But that's the one we're missing. I think Zach and I would both like a basketball team.
I would love one. I'm trying to get a Miami show going just because we don't have one in Tampa.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Crossing Alligator Alley is like my line.
It's a little dangerous.
Yeah. So, but Zach, I'll give you for the final word here, man. I've begged the people to follow us. I want to say it's been an honor so far doing this, and we're not done yet. So there's just a couple more shows on the table for us. But I'll give you the last word and get excited for a whole weekend of amazing USFL football.
Yeah, man. Fingers crossed we get another 2 or 3 episodes for this season, and fingers crossed even more. We'll have a whole docket of shows next season. But for you fans, I mean, Yurika said it best. You guys are the real MVPs. We appreciate you guys tuning in every week and listening along. You guys are the reason why we do it, so we appreciate you guys. And I'd say let's ride, but there's no more riding this season for us. So let's just go enjoy some football and not have to stress who wins or loses.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.